Welcome to Amnicon Falls State Park. Today, we'll be exploring billions of years of geology while hiking a nearly endless supply of waterfalls. We have the upper falls, the lower falls, the covered bridge that gets us to the Snake Pit Falls. You can see me almost fall before we get to the Now and Then Falls. And after all that exciting geology, we're going to end with some hidden stone carvings that are over 100 years old. Let's go hiking. So it had been raining, and I decided to look up some waterfalls on all trails, and I found Amnicon Falls State Park in Wisconsin and took a quick trip out there. And to my surprise, this was awesome. There were so many waterfalls and side quests, so it's not your traditional hike in the sense of I go from point A to point B, but it's like an outdoor person's playground or something like that. I must have hiked 1.5 miles or more in just this one little 0.6 area. But it's the geology that makes this place so unique and so special. And so let's get into a little bit more about the geology as we look at all these different waterfalls. And at the very end, we're going to check out some graffiti that I found in a little overhang cave that if you look closely, you might be able to find on the Perryville Trail. All right, let's go hiking. So where we're standing now is part of the upper falls of the Amnicon River. And the dark rock it's plunging over is called basalt, or trap rock. It is the solidified remnants of ancient lava flows which extended across this entire region about 1 billion years ago. Try to imagine, these flows were widespread and can be seen for more than 100 miles south of the park. They originated from deep fissures in an area now covered by Lake Superior, and the extensive distribution of the flows and the fine texture indicate that the lava was very fluid and that the cooling process was sufficiently rapid to prevent crystals from forming. So try to imagine hot lava flowing hundreds of miles from Lake Superior. You'll notice that the basalt at the falls and upstream is massive and lacks the layering or stratification so common in sedimentary rocks such as the sandstone we're about to see downstream. But this, to me, is where the geology gets really interesting as we start to talk about the origin of these rocks. So, millions of years ago, when the Earth was much warmer, great oceans covered much of Wisconsin. Mineral and rock grains were freed from older rocks through prolonged physical and chemical weathering, and the Lake Superior sandstone you see here was transported to this area by streams and deposited within a floodplain millions of years ago. Much of the Lake Superior shoreline around Bayfield Peninsula and the Apostle Islands was composed of outcrops of this sandstone, and the total thickness is thought to be around 4 miles. We're going to take a quick pause in the geology and tell you about this Horton covered bridge. It is a 55-foot long bridge that spans the river at the lower falls. Originally it had no covering, but it's historically significant due to its age and its unusual construction. Called a Horton Bridge after its inventor, these bridges are built with arched beams and secured with hooks and clips. They don't require expensive machinery or tools to construct, and there's only 5 other of these Horton bridges still in existence, so pretty neat. All right, back to the geology. The outstanding geological feature of this park is the Douglas Fault. This exposed zone of reddish-brown rock is the location of tremendous fracturing and movement of the basalt bedrock that occurred about 500 million years ago. It extends from an area east of Ashland, Wisconsin, all the way to the vicinity of the Twin Cities, Minnesota. The bedrock south of the fault, where the falls are located, was slowly forced upward and to the north at a 50 to 60 degree angle. This movement, called a thrust fault, is far less common than faulting when the rock mass moves downward. Geologists believe that the rock may have moved upwards a distance of 3 miles along the fault line. Can you imagine just like what this would have sounded like if you could have played it back in, geological real time? It would have been crazy. The faulting action explains why you see sandstone at the same level here as the basalt and even further downstream. Millions of years of water, ice, and wind erosion have removed the sandstone that once laid on the basalt above the falls, and then north of the fault, the soft sandstone was protected somewhat by the adjacent hard basalt. So keep your eyes out as you walk around this park because, again, it changes geological sort of composition almost every other step. It's so cool. Not only is it beautiful because of the waterfalls, But when you really understand the geology and how this happened 500 million years ago, it just adds an extra layer of science and cool to this beautiful park. Another type of rock you want to keep an eye out for as you walk around this park is called conglomerate. It's composed of rounded pebbles and it appears similar to concrete, and you'll definitely see it. You just got to keep your eyes peeled around the Douglas Fault. So while the sandstone and the basalt is from around 500 million years ago, let's talk about how the rest of this magical sort of fun playground for outdoors people got created. So not long ago in geological time, we're talking 10 to 14,000 years ago, great glaciers moved across the area, and there's evidence of this all throughout the park, right? So the major rock types are basalt and sandstone, but these other rock varieties that you're going to see as you walk around, they were brought here by the glaciers. So ice passed across this part of Wisconsin 4 times, scouring away the remaining limestone that rested on the basalt in this area. And then the last great glacial advances left a thin layer of glacial deposits at the surface, except in places where the Amnicon River has washed it away and exposed the bedrock. Another sign of the glacier's presence are glacial striations. These are scratches that are in the basalt bedrock caused by rock fragments firmly held at the bases of thick ice sheets. Sometimes these ice sheets would be as much as 2 miles deep. And so as they slowly crunched across the area, these rock fragments at the base of these ice sheets would leave scratches, and they show the direction of the ice movement. And some of these striations may be seen near the boulder across the river. So keep an eye out for these as you walk around. Again, it's like a playground for people who like the outdoors. Another thing I should mention is the falls. There are so many waterfalls, and I guess it just depends on how you're classifying them, but there's the upper falls, the lower falls. This is like the top of Snake Pit Falls, and it actually goes even further if you want to actually see Snake Pit Falls. So yeah, just follow all the trails. It is just a lovely place to explore. There are so many waterfalls that you can get right up to the top, right up to the base. You can get in the water if you want. It was a little cool today, and it was raining. But yeah, in terms of like waterfalls per square mile, this hike isn't even listed as a mile. It's listed as 0.6, and it's just waterfall after waterfall. Don't turn your back, because you might have a waterfall behind you if you turn your back. So yeah, just a great time. Once upon a time, there was actually a bridge here that connected the campground and the Periwinkle Trail. I'm not sure when it washed away, but the remnants of where the bridge used to be, they look really cool. And it's easy to get to the other side if you just walk around. These mushrooms are really cool. This is actually the old riverbed. It must have changed directions at some point, because this was clearly carved out by water and just got rerouted. But yeah, this is a really cool side quest. Again, take all the little trails you can find if you ever come visit this park. It is so beautiful everywhere you look. It's not just the waterfalls, it's all of it. So we're now coming up on what is officially called Snake Pit Falls, and you can tell it's got a very severe drop, and it's got a huge sort of cauldron. I've never seen a snake pit in real life. I don't know if these are real or if it's just something from Indiana Jones, and they don't know where this name came from. It's just been called Snake Pit Falls since, I guess, people were calling it Snake Pit Falls. So yeah, I wish there was a better story behind how it got its name. One thing Snake Pit Falls does really well is it shows off the erosive ability of flowing water, even on this very hard basalt bedrock. The Amnicon River has provided us with a wealth of scenic beauty as it winds through the park. Its flow can vary from raging torrent during a spring snowmelt to just a trickle during drought periods when all but the main channel become dry. Its 125 square mile drainage basin contains 8 lakes and includes parts of 5 townships in Douglas counties. From its headwaters to its mouth on the shore of Lake Superior, a distance of nearly 30 miles, the rapidly flowing water descends 640 feet. In its less than 2-mile course through Amnicon Falls State Park, it falls 180 feet. As the river collects its water from the vast bogs and conifer swamps of its headwaters, it picks up decaying vegetation, And this root beer color of the water is due to the tannic acid derived from the tannins in this organic matter, and not iron oxide as some have been led to believe. So if you want to get in a great argument with somebody, tell them that the root beer colored water is not rust, right? It is actually tannins from organic matter. And look, I would know, I'm from Georgia where we have red clay, and that is actually caused by oxidation. I think it goes without saying if you don't know at this point. This is 100% a Tazumi Woods approved hike, explorer. I don't know what you want to call this, because again, it's only 0.6 miles. I managed to probably do 1.5 miles with all the side quests and all the trails and walking down to the river. It's absolutely stunning from a nature perspective, from a geological perspective. The river is beautiful, the rocks are beautiful, the trees and the moss and the mushrooms are beautiful. It is just a great place. And Amnicon Falls is one of the few places where the Douglas Fault is exposed and can be studied. So it has scientific value. So yeah, for sure, way more than what I expected. I had expectations of a waterfall when I came here, and I left feeling like a big geological science nerd with a side of Indiana Jones because, you know, there's a snake pit. This last waterfall is called Now and Then Falls, and it's a good name because it's not always there. The falls disappear during periods of low flow. Today, they were visible. Honestly, after all the other waterfalls, this is merely a trickle compared to everything else we've seen, but I thought, hey, we can't leave it out, so let's make sure we mention it. All right, now, on to the final part. On another trail, the ranger here at this park was kind enough with me to share that there's some graffiti from over 100 years ago, and after lots of climbing and exploring, this is the only hint you're gonna get is that tree. If you can find this overlook and you go look underneath it, you'll find graffiti from 1886 and some that's as fresh as the early 2000s. If you look really closely, this little water droplet mark is actually marks that they would use to brand logs. So whoever left this during the logging boom that happened in this region, and I guess they just had some time off down by the river and were messing about. And who knew that over 100 years later, somebody would be talking about the graffiti that they left down by the river in the back of the woods. Look at the font on that. That one is amazing to me. And shout out to Luke from 2006 for getting his tag in. Give it another 100 years, Luke, and you'll be famous too. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching the Amnicon Falls video, and we'll see everybody out there hiking in the woods. Bye-bye.